there, it's Hillary, and today I'm going to be doing my July recap. So for the month of July, I ended up reading 9 books, which isn't too bad. I'm going to be breaking it down into before Booktubeathon and during Booktubeathon. I participated in Booktubeathon for the first time this year, and I was really excited. I did pretty well. But I'm going to be breaking it down as to what I read beforehand and what I read during and what I read after, because I actually completed a book today as well. So we're going to go ahead and get right into the 9 books that I read. The first book that I read for the month was our June book club book. Technically, our meeting is usually at the beginning of the next month, and that's also when we pick the book for that month. So I read this one in the very first week of July. I had such a good reading month last month, and I didn't want to read the book club book too early in the month because I didn't want to forget everything I had read, be all mixed up with other books that I read, so I wanted to wait. So I read it at the beginning of this month, and that was The Woman in Cabin 10 by Ruth Ware. I gave this book 4 stars. I enjoyed it a lot. I didn't think that it was too scary of a thriller. I liked that it kept me guessing. I made a prediction for this one, and it was wrong, and I was really glad. I also did a full book review of this book, so I'll leave that in the description down below. I have a couple of other books by Ruth Ware. I really did like her writing style. Some of the other people in my book club, they said they didn't really care for the way she described the main character in this book, which it didn't really bother me a lot like it did them. I don't know, like they didn't care for her, and I just feel like that's part of the story. Like it just portrays her a certain way, and they just didn't care for her personality. But that's, you know, that's just how it is. But like I said, I enjoyed this one. I gave it 4 stars. I had a really good month with enjoying all the books that I read, so that was pretty exciting. The next book that I read is Riders by Veronica Rossi. I did a full video review for this one as well, so I'll link that one in the description box. Any of the books that I have a review for, I'll link in the description box. I gave this one 4 stars as well. I'm not sure if I said that already, but I really enjoyed this one. This one was a very slow starting book, but I knew that I had to stick with it because the storyline behind this one sounded so interesting, and I'm glad I did because I really enjoyed this one. This one is the first book in a duology, and I am looking forward to reading the next one, although I don't have it right now, but I'm keeping my eye on Goodreads for it so that I can possibly purchase it at a really good price because I do want to read it. Although, that being said, I don't feel like I necessarily need to go out and buy it and I need to read it. It wasn't so much of a cliffhanger ending in this one that I have to know what happens in the next book, at least not for me personally. The third book that I read for the month of July was The Bone Collection by Kathy Reichs. This is her novella collection. It has 4 novellas. I gave this one 5 stars. I'm at the point now where I'm not sure if I really enjoyed the books or it's Kathy Reichs' writing style that I love so much, but I just think her writing is amazing and I really like it. If I had to pick my favorite novella from this one, it is First Bones, which is the last one in this book, and it is the prequel to her book series. I loved that story. I thought it was so cool seeing all these characters that she's meeting for the first time and that you've grown to love throughout like her 19 book series. It was so good. I also have a full book review for this one, so I'll also link this one in the description below. The 4th book that I read for the month was The Weight of Feathers. I gave this one 5 stars. I really enjoyed this book. I am planning on doing a full book review for this one if you guys are interested in seeing it. I liked this book a lot. It has been compared to The Night Circus, and I can see like a little bit of The Night Circus in this book. It's not totally the same, but it definitely has a very fantasy element in this book. You definitely get like the 2 groups of people at war, which it's not magicians at war or magicians in a contest like the Night Circus, but it definitely has that aspect. And as you can probably tell from the cover right there, and it might even say in the synopsis that two people from the story are going to meet, and I just think stories like this are so classic. Like, you get that Romeo and Juliet-esque love, and like, how can you not love it? Like, it's in so many types of books, and it's just classic. And how can you not love it? I really did like the story. It kept me interested, and it felt like it was a more fantasy-based story than what I had read in a long time. And it's actually a magical realism, which I was surprised, because the fantasy, like, I felt like the fantasy was so hard to wrap my head around, but I really did enjoy it. The next 4 books that I read are the 4 that I read during Booktubeathon. The first one that I read for Booktubeathon was Unarmed Park. I read this book. Like I said, this one is our book club's book for July, and we have our meeting next week. And I also used this one for Booktubeathon, read a book with a person on the cover, and read a hyped book. I didn't realize how hyped this book was until I started searching. I did a Google search for hyped books, and this one popped up. It was a Goodreads list, and this one popped up on there. So I was like, oh, perfect, because I've read this one. I gave this one 4 stars. I really enjoyed the story. I felt like the relationship between Eleanor and Park reminded me a lot of the way my husband and I, that sarcastic relationship that they have. It reminded me a lot of that, and I really enjoyed it. I love the idea of a story about first love. It's so cute. And I loved the 80s references in this book. I was born in the 80s, so when they were talking about cassette tapes and Walkmans and Punky Brewster and everything, those were all things that I remember from when I was growing up, because they went into the 90s when I was a kid, and like a lot of those things I had myself, and I just found that it was really nice reading that. There was a quote that I really liked in this book, and of course I don't have the quote right here with me on hand. I put it in my Goodreads review that I really liked that quote. They were talking about why people like Romeo and Juliet so much, and Park basically is like, it reminds you of what it's like to be young and in love, and I just thought that was so cute. But I felt like that's what this book did for me. Not so much Romeo and Juliet, but this book reminds me of what it's like to be young and in love, and I just think it's so cute. The next book that I read for Booktubeathon was The Tale of Emily Winsnap. This is a middle grade book, and it is about a 12-year-old girl. She discovers that she is a mermaid. So this one I read for read a book in one sitting, and read a book with a main character that's totally different from you. So when I had gotten to this point, I had completed 4 challenges and read 2 books. This one, I thought this one was really cute. I was trying to picture myself reading it as a middle schooler, because I thought the story idea was really cute as an adult, so I was trying to think of what it would be like from a 12-year-old's perspective. I can't wait for my kids to get a little bit older so they can read this. I have 2 little girls, one is 7, one is 5, and my 7-year-old is already asking me if she can read it, but I think it's a little bit too old for her right now, but I really think that she's going to enjoy it when I do let her read it. I like the relationship between the mom and the daughter in this one. It seems very realistic of what a preteen and a mom would be like. So I really liked this one. I gave this one 4 stars. And I do have the next 2 in this series, so I'm looking forward to eventually reading them and seeing if I like those 2 as well. The next one that I read on Kindle Book. While I was doing Booktubeathon, I read that one in one sitting, and I was also reading my Read a Book Totally Outdoors. I was reading that one as well. And when I finished The Tale of Emily Winstap, I was not able to go outside and read the rest of my book. I was at work, and I'm lucky enough that if I have downtime, I can read at work. So I started reading a book on my phone because I didn't have any more books with me. I'd already brought two. I finished one, and one I was reading outside on my lunch break. So I started reading Hunted by Megan Spooner on my Kindle app on my phone. I really enjoyed this story. I gave it 4 stars. I liked that the story took like a tale that we were very familiar with. Like, we're very familiar with the Disney story of Beauty and the Beast because that's what Hunted is. It's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. But they put like a different twist on it. And I really liked that. It made it very original. I didn't think that the story was very action-packed, but with that being said, I feel like it worked well for the kind of story that they were telling. I really liked it. I liked the characters that were in it. I liked the story. I liked the pacing of it. Everything worked really well for that story. I thought it had a really good ending. I just really enjoyed that book. I don't think that that one is part of a series. I think that's just a standalone, but I really enjoyed that book. And I do have a couple of other books by Megan Spooner, so I'm looking forward to giving them a try because I really enjoyed that one. The next book that I ended up reading during BookTubeathon, I read this one as one sitting as well. I read this whole book in like 2 hours because it wasn't exactly what I thought it was going to be, but I also used it for the book that you bought because of the cover, and that is The World According to Mr. Rogers. I saw this book and I saw that it was by Fred Rogers, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to read that book because I loved Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood growing up. So I did buy this book because of the cover, so I used that as well. To be honest, I was a little disappointed in this book. I gave it 3 stars. There were some really nice quotes in there that I liked, and it had a lot of the songs that he sang on his TV show, and as I was reading them, I was picturing them being sung in my head and sung with his voice, and it was really cool. It was a nice little flashback memory. But it's not exactly what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be more of a story and not just so much pages of quotes or things that he said. So I was a little disappointed by that, but that's all right. There was a little story at the very beginning. It was like a thing that his wife wrote, and it was a little bit about their relationship and how they met, and I thought that was really cute. And there were 3 little sections in there that I really enjoyed. 2 of them were stories, 1 was a quote, and I just thought they were really good. So I did enjoy it, but it wasn't what I was expecting it to be, and that's part of the reason why I gave it 3 stars. But it did help me complete. I think I completed 5 of my BookTubeathon challenges. I completed 5 BookTubeathon challenges. I didn't get to fully complete a book outside, and I read 4 books during BookTubeathon. I did not get to read 7. So those are the 2 that I did not complete. And the last book that I read during the month of July was actually the book that I was working on reading outside, and I didn't get to finish it. And I think part of the reason why I didn't complete it is because I didn't care for it. And that is The Call of the Wild by Jack London. I had a total misconception going into this book, and it's probably my own fault. But when I was reading the synopsis of the book, I just thought it was something totally different than what this book was going to be. And so I only gave this book 2 stars. I did not like the way things were worded in this book, although the book was published in like 1903. So that's just part of the way they talk and part of the way they wrote. So I can't totally hold that against it, but it was difficult to read because of the writing and the wording. Also, the book was very sad and violent, and it's not what I was expecting. When I read the synopsis for this book, I had the idea in my mind that this was going to be like a Homeward Bound story, and that's not what this was. And I don't want to do spoilers, but no, it's not a Homeward Bound story. Like, at least the ending does get a little bit better than the rest of the story, but oh my goodness, so sad, so violent. That's all I can say. And I had high hopes for this because my brother, who doesn't like to read, actually really enjoyed reading this book in school. So I was like, oh, well, if he enjoyed it, then I should enjoy it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, no. I think the only reason why I didn't give this book 1 star is because I really did think it was neat writing the book from the perspective of the dog. You guys have to let me know in the comments. I don't know very much about A Dog's Purpose, but is that written from the perspective of a dog? Did they kind of take that same idea? I don't know. But I thought that was really interesting. And for being published in 1903, that must have been like a new idea at the time. So I did like that. And I did like that the ending was happier than the rest of the book. It's not that difficult to be happier than the rest of the book, to be honest, but that's why I didn't give the book 1 star, but I really didn't enjoy this one, and I think if I had have enjoyed it more, then I might have been able to complete this as my read a book totally outdoors. But it was just so hard for me to read, and this book is not even that long. It's only 179 pages, so it shouldn't have been difficult for me to read. I just wasn't enjoying it, and that's what was making it difficult for me to read. So those are the 9 books that I read for the month. For the most part, I really enjoyed the books that I read, and I look forward to seeing what I'm going to read for next month. If you liked this video, please leave me a like, and if you've read any of these books, let me know if you liked them. If you didn't like them, you don't have to worry about spoilers because I've already read them all. And let me know anything that you read for the month of July. If you're interested in being notified when I post new videos, please subscribe to my channel. I try to post videos frequently on this channel, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.